The J-10C is a Chinese Tier 8 event plane. You can acquire it by completing 2 weeks worth of missions, so at the time this video was released, you can still get it. Despite not being the most important thing in this tier, I'll start with the performance. For this tier it's actually pretty decent, only lacking in the top speed which isn't the highest. However, that doesn't true in your performance at all because thanks to your good thrust to weight ratio you'll be able to climb to altitude quickly. One thing to note is that before you start climbing you gain a bit of speed. Otherwise you'll have trouble gaining altitude. If you ever get into a dogfight, which almost never happens, you have good 1-circle performance, but if you get dragged into a 2-circle fight you're gonna have some problems. Luckily this plane regains energy quickly so you most likely won't get caught slow. Before I continue with this video, I'd like to mention that Wings of Glory has been nominated for Best Game by AviAwards, so if you want to, you can cast a vote for Wings of Glory. And thanks to this event we get a new code which you can redeem for 250 medals. Now let's return to the J-10 with its offensive armament. For the gun, it gets the Type 23mm, which is very similar to the GSH-23L present on the MiG-21 and MiG-23, and if you've ever played one of those two planes you'd know this gun vaporizes wings. However, it has a couple downsides like the above average gun spread, low ammo count and high rate of fire, which usually wouldn't be a problem. And of course, the best ammo belt is the air targets belt. Before I move on to the missiles I'll briefly mention the countermeasures. You get a total of 58 countermeasures, 40 chaff and 18 flares. You drop 1 chaff and 1 flare at a time. This amount is below optimal so you'll have to fire your missiles from longer ranges. Side climbing and then slinging your PL-15s, this method has worked out the best for me. The J-10 can carry 4 different missiles. The first one I'll cover is the PL-8B. It is this plane's stock infrared missile, and to be completely honest, I haven't used it once, as getting close enough to the enemy to fire this missile would be a death sentence. Maybe you can agree on an IR missile 1v1 in a public lobby with only 2 players, but the chance of that happening is extremely rare. This missile would become useful if the devs added IR missiles to duels. The second and better IR missile is the PL-10, which has better range, a higher G-load, imaging seeker and thrust vectoring. Just like the PL-8, I haven't used this missile once, but thanks to the IRCCM, this missile is much harder to flare, the enemy only having a couple seconds to flare after it was launched. If you can get in range, you can fire this missile and expect it to hit unless the enemy starts maneuvering to make your missile lose energy. If the devs do end up adding IR missiles to duels, this missile would dominate in a 1v1. Having HMD capabilities paired with a high G-load and thrust vectoring, the enemy would have to try really hard to not die to your missile. I guess this also applies to other advanced IR missiles in Tier 8 like the AIM-9X, IRIS-T and ASRAAM, to name a few. The first active radar homing missile of the video is the PL-12. Simply put, it's very similar to the R-77, even showing up as an R-77 on the enemy's RWR. It has the same radar that's present on the R-77 and a slightly better booster. You don't have to spend any upgrade points to get it. If you want to do well with these missiles, you have to get a bit closer to the enemy, exposing you to their radar missiles, and because you only have 40 chaff, you'll quickly run out of countermeasure leading to your death. When compared to other active radar homing missiles in this tier, it's considered obsolete and can't be used to dominate lobbies. The PL-15 on the other hand is considered one of the best missiles in Tier 8, having data link capabilities, higher G-load, better range and a better radar. The data link capabilities can be used to fire all of your PL-15s at once and have them use data link to guide towards the enemy, but that requires another teammate that's using the same data link, or simply put, another J-10 in your team. I suggest that you play with a friend who also has the J-10 to abuse the data link to dominate the lobby. A couple downsides to this missile are that you can only carry 4 of them and that they cost a whopping 750 upgrade points, but if you plan on using the J-10 a lot, it's a good investment. If you side climb to 10 kilometers, the PL-15 can reach the enemy's spawn, allowing you to get 100 plus kilometer kills. This missile is also almost capable of hypersonic flight. I've had multiple instances where it reached Mach 4.7, Mach 0.3 too slow to be hypersonic. Here's a couple recommended loadouts. The first one includes only stock missiles, the second loadout is a full loadout with the maximum amount of the best missiles. Keep in mind that the IR missiles in the first 2 loadouts are optional, so you don't need to equip them unless you plan on getting close to the enemy. The third loadout can be used if you plan on staying away from the enemies and slinging your PL-15s from very far away. The fourth and last loadout can be used in a similar way, but if after you sling all your PL-15s, you decide to get a bit closer to the enemy, the 2 extra missiles allow you to do that. The radar this plane gets is the KL-J-10. For this tier, it's a pretty good radar, having a low Doppler filter, good range and a decent search cone. This search cone is not big enough to allow you to notch and track the enemy at the same time, so keep that in mind. This radar gets 2 modes, TWS which doesn't ping the enemy's RWR and is the preferred mode for radar-assisted infrared missile launches. This mode also allows you to fire active radar homing missiles, which don't need an STT lock to be fired. Usually, I would say that the STT mode pings the enemy's RWR, but since this radar is an active electronically scanned array, it uses a computer-controlled antenna array which doesn't ping the enemy's RWR. The enemy is still able to see you on their RWR, but they will never know if you're hard-locking them. For the RWR, you get the J-10C. It's a pretty good RWR and almost everything you need to know about it will be written on your screen, so pause the video to read the entire thing if you want to master this RWR. So how do you use the J-10? Well, it's very simple. All you have to do is side climb to 10 kilometers and then sling your PL-15s until you run out of them. Top tier is so fun and definitely not monotonous. So, is the J10 worth grinding? In my opinion, it's 100% worth it. You get decent performance, one of the best missiles in this tier, good radar and RWR and so much more. I don't like top tier, but I had a good time in the J10, so if you have the time, definitely grind for it. What do you guys think of the J10? Did you end up grinding for it? Comment down below. With that said, I thank you for watching and I'll see you soon, with a much longer video.